Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to a live stream. We are going to be having a lot of fun today. We're going to be talking Jira Advanced Roadmaps. So if you haven't used the Advanced Roadmaps before, you're really going to want to stick around for this entire training here because this is probably one of my favorite features of Jira. I do want to start with a disclaimer. This is a premium only feature. So if you don't have Jira Premium or if you're not in the enterprise version of Jira, you are unfortunately going to not have the same experience. But I wanted to show it to you. I wanted you to kind of just familiar with it so that you can kind of determine if it's worth going up, because the price for Jira Advanced Roadmaps is basically 2x your existing monthly price. So for some it might be worth it, for others it might not, but it's definitely one of my favorite features. It's something that almost every team that I work with uses to a certain level, to a certain degree. And if you're coming in, if your company's kind of like quasi waterfall, quasi agile, and you got a foot in each methodology, then you're probably gonna really appreciate and really like the advanced roadmaps capability. So before we get started, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. My name's Alex with ATech Tech Tutorials. I see a couple of you here in the chat, so feel free, drop a hello in the chat. It always helps out. And let me know who you are, where you're from. I'd love to give a quick shout out and just say hello. And then we're going to spend about the next hour basically talking about roadmaps. I am going to start things off with the basic roadmap just to kind of level set for everybody and give everybody at least some visibility into what everybody gets for free. And then I'm gonna kind of show you a little bit. I'm not gonna spend more than like 5-10, definitely less than 10 minutes, and kind of just looking at the basic roadmaps, because again, everybody gets that for free. And then we're gonna toggle into tonight's main event, which is the advanced roadmaps. And I am guaranteeing you, you are going to get a kick out of this. You're really gonna like this stuff. So, anyways, let's go ahead and we'll jump into Jira. And again, thank you to everybody that's tuned in. Really appreciate the support. But yeah, let's jump into Jira and let's start talking. Again, we're gonna kick things off with the basic roadmap, just to level set, just to get everybody on the same page, so that everybody kind of understands and knows what I'm talking about, and how many or appreciate the advanced roadmaps when we actually get into it. Okay, so to get to the basic roadmaps, you just go into any Jira project, and so I'm just gonna go into one of the ones that I have, and you'll notice that on the top there's a roadmap. You probably are very familiar with the backlog, and you're probably very familiar with the active sprints, but I'm not sure if you've ever gone into the roadmap view. But if you go into the roadmap view, this is actually a pretty cool view. I actually do like this. It is feature rich, even though they call it the basic, but you can still get a lot of value out of this. So if you use Jira from a very simple way of using, like just using epics and stories, and you're not really leveraging subtasks, and you're really not leveraging any issue types above the epic, and you're just wanting to see how things are, how your plan looks, then the roadmap, this basic roadmap, is actually going to be, again, very insightful, right? So you'll be able to see in the basic roadmap, you can see the epics, and you can see your stories, tasks, or bugs. Okay, and so if I go over here to click the little plus button, you can see that I can toggle between a story, a task, or a bug. These are the standard issue types, with the epic being that parent. And if this is all you do, and this is the way you use your Jira, then this is all you need. You don't need to go up basically doubling your price, because honestly, I mean, you're gonna get a kick, right? You're gonna see all the cool things you can do in advanced roadmaps today, but I can be successful with this. This is really all I need. If I'm just practicing a very small, very just agile, very scrum team, and I just want a little bit of an enhanced visual of like timelines and stuff, right? Because also keep in mind that start dates and due dates aren't really an agile thing, right? Like the start of the sprint and the end of the sprint is really your start and end date, which if you look at this roadmap here, you can see that it's very indicative here, right? Because you can see that this T2 sprint 1 is defining my boundaries for that start date and that end date. And so the basic roadmap, again, you're not really gonna have, you can, if you want to, move the dates around, but you don't really need to do that, because it is assumed that when your team accepts the work into the sprint, the bounds of the sprint, the time box of the sprint, is going to define when something can start and when something should be done, because your team has the autonomy, they have the freedom to self-organize and to basically go and figure it out. And this is just going to give you, again, a very, very basic view. So you may be asking yourself, well, okay, so what's the big point then? So if we have this, then what do I care about the advanced roadmaps? Well, this advanced roadmaps feature functionality is for teams that are, I don't want to like alienate anybody, right? But it's an advanced feature, right? It's an advanced roadmap functionality, and it is advanced for a reason, right? And so the biggest benefit and the biggest thing that you're going to see is that when you're comparing, when you're looking at this roadmap here, this moment I switch a board, right? The moment I go to another board, sometimes there's multiple boards can be in one project, or maybe you just want to look at different Jira projects. But the second you're toggling, your roadmap has changed. Your roadmap's going to reflect whatever's in that issue, and I can't go and see the other sprints work. And so this is one of the limitations of the basic. But what I'm going to show you today is how the advanced roadmaps really kind of brings everything together, because it does it so beautifully, right? It gives you this visibility that, in my opinion, is priceless. It's worth every single penny upgrading to the premium version. But I'm not sponsored by Atlassian, and I'm not a salesperson. I'm not here to try to convince you that you need to double your price. But I am very excited, and I do use this feature quite a bit, so I want to show it to you. Okay, so let's hopefully that was clear. If you have any questions about any of the basic roadmaps or anything like that, I am monitoring the comments. And if you're new, if you're watching this, or maybe you're watching the replay, let me know in the comment section if you have any questions on the basics. I'll go and check those comments as they come in. And for everybody in the live stream, please make sure you say hello, say hi, and if you haven't shared this link with your social media, feel free to share and tell everybody that you're watching this amazing live stream and that you're learning about advanced roadmaps. It definitely helps the channel out quite a bit. All right, so let's go into the advanced roadmaps. Hello, Esther. How are you? Thank you for saying hello. Okay, so this is kind of cool. So when I go and like help a company or a team out, and they're telling me, "Hey, Alex, I don't know if we have the advanced roadmaps capability, right?" Well, I can actually glance at their Jira in milliseconds and understand and determine if they do have the functionality or not. And I'm going to show you a trick. So for everybody watching the video, you're all going to know this trick. So when you have the premium version of Jira, okay, keep in mind this is the version that basically doubles the price. It's $14.50 per user, and obviously if you're an enterprise, you're going to have this built in already. But when you are in the premium, right, you will see this little plan section here. This does not show up if you're on Jira Standard. If you're on Jira Standard, your navigation goes from people to apps to create, and this plan section is not there. So go take a look at your Jira, look at your navigation bar, and look for it. Right? If you see plans, that means you have the advanced. Advanced roadmaps, and it also means you're on the premium version. Now, why Atlassian does this kind of boggles my mind, but the advanced roadmap, I've been saying this over and over and over. You see it in the title. Where in the world is it, and why is it called plans? And so I don't know why it's like that. All I know is that when you want to make an advanced roadmap, it's under the plans. So in other words, you're essentially creating a plan. So for those of you joining, thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you say hello in the chat, drop a like if you get value out of this video here, and make sure you just introduce yourself, where you're at, where you're from, your name, or whatever you want to say. I'm monitoring the chat in the window here, and so every interaction here helps out a lot. If you have any questions about anything that I'm covering as well, feel free to interrupt me at any point if I'm going too fast, or if I forget, most importantly, if I forget to share my screen, because I toggle between my screens quite a bit, so if I'm toggling and I forget, please feel free in the chat, just drop it in there and tell me that I'm not sharing my screen, and I'd be more than happy to remind myself or to go and do it. So again, just a thumbs up or a wave, a hello, goes a really, really long way. So again, thank you for everybody who's tuning in. Appreciate you coming into the chat. We are going to be actually starting the plan. Okay, so we've been stalling here for a couple minutes. We are going to go create a plan, right? Just so I can give you the steps. All right, so the first step to creating a plan, obviously you got to be on the premium version of Jira. But once you're there, you're going to come over to the navigation bar to plans, and you're going to scroll all the way down to create plan. We're going to click on that. And then here, you have to start providing some information. You basically give this a plan name. Now, this is where some people make some, not mistakes, but this is where you have some creativity within Jira to kind of help you organize your stuff. One of the reasons why folks use and leverage the advanced roadmaps is because the advanced roadmaps allows you to absorb, allows you to like pull in different sources of data. But if you remember from a few moments ago, I mentioned that the basic roadmap, when I change from board to board or Jira project to Jira project, the board changes, right? So, or the roadmap changes. So I can't see what another team's working on. And so every time that I change, all my data gets changed. But in the advanced roadmap, that's not the case. When you're doing the advanced roadmap, you can actually pull in different data sources, which I'm going to show you here in a second, and then you can create like a master plan. So when you're naming your plan, it's advantageous for you to call it like the name of your department or the name of the product or something grand, something that's a bigger scale, because you don't just want to call your plan like plan A, right? You kind of want to help it organize you so that you can see that this plan is a collection, it's a bucket of a bunch of different efforts that you're all trying to see in one singular view. Okay, so that's kind of like the tip that I would give you, because I've seen teams where they just do some very, very basic, like, oh, well, this is for an epic. And I'm like, no, no, no. This is beyond the epic. This is really, really big, right? So you want to make sure that you're naming your plan appropriately so that you can have a holistic understanding and a view of everything that's going to come in here. But I'm just doing demonstrations here. And so don't do as I do, but do as I say, because I'm just going to call this my live stream plan. Hello, Georgette. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you so much. Feel free to drop a thumbs up if you just to help out the algorithm here. And thank you for the comment. Gary, thank you so much for the thumbs up as well. Appreciate you. You're starting to become a regular. I see you commenting on the videos, and I appreciate you coming into the live stream here. And hopefully my audio is better. I forgot who was telling me. Somebody made a comment that my audio was not that loud in that last video that I posted yesterday. So hopefully, can anybody give me a confirmation? Can you guys hear me okay? Is it the right level of loudness? I'm trying not to obviously make you go deaf, but if you're having a hard time hearing me, then I might have to change the settings on my microphone. So anyways, give me some feedback there when y'all get a chance. Okay, so we gave it a name, and now is the axis. So with this one, you really only have all or nothing. I recommend that you make it private at the beginning when you're trying to figure things out. Once you figured it out, then you want to open it up. Now keep in mind that if you do it private, you can also share it later. So it's not like it's like completely locked up. But if you have nothing to hide, which you really shouldn't have anything to hide, and I'm probably just using really, really poor word choice, but most of my plans are always usually open. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Yeah. So as long as that audio is okay, I'm not sure why it was coming in low in that last video, but I typically do open because I'm an open book. But if you don't want people messing around with stuff, you're gonna want to do private. So I'll just select open for now. And this is where the magic happens. This issue sources, this is where you're going to start to pull in. This is the reason why you go to the advanced roadmaps, because, well, one of the many reasons, but this is like the primary gate. That's like, why would I want an advanced roadmap? Well, it's because you can pull in multiple issue sources. Now, don't quote me on how many you can do. I think I've done up to 10 or 14 with no problem, but hopefully you don't have like more than 15 projects, so that's about how many I've done. But if you click on issue sources here, you can select between a board, a project, or a filter. And what this means is you can bring in an individual board, right? So just a very small subset of data, or you can bring in an entire project. So if it has multiple boards, it'll just bring everything in. Or if you have a very, very just selected data set that you really want to look at, you can bring in the filter that way. For just my guidance, right? I typically bring in a project because it's, in my opinion, it's always better to bring everything or as much things in and then kind of filter stuff out. Because kind of like when you're cutting your hair, you can always take hair off, but you can't grow it back on. And so if something's missing, it's always harder to go find it than it is to just go, oh, I don't need any of these things, and just kick them out. So hopefully that makes sense there. So with that said, I typically go for a project. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select project, and then I'm going to pick a project, right? The team's optional. We'll talk about teams towards the tail end here, but at the very least, this is all you need to get started. Now, if I do this, if I just hit create with just one project, yeah, I can do that, but I'm not really taking advantage of why we're using the advanced roadmaps, right? Because all the benefit that this is going to give me is that it's going to give me the entire hierarchy. So if you remember from the basic roadmap, and let me just go into it real quick. If you remember when I was looking at the basic roadmap is limited to just the epic and the story task or bug. But let's say you are using subtasks, which I think I might have in one of these. I don't. But let me just add a couple of subtasks here, right? So sub 1, sub 2, sub 3. And so the second you add these subtasks, you'll notice that nothing happens. Like the roadmap didn't get like it didn't expand, right? But when I come over here to my demo team plan and I'm pulling in the same project, take a look at this number, right? It's number 13. But if you remember, I kind of just created a bunch of issues. Whoops. I guess I couldn't do what I was doing. So let's go back to the create plan, and we'll do my live stream plan, right? And then I'm gonna go back and get that same project. And so now it has 16 instead of the 13, right? So what it basically did is it knows that I have more than just this epic stories. So it's gonna go and actually understand and pull in those subtasks. So if I do this, if I hit the create, it's going to go and it's essentially going to look very similar. It's got a lot more going on. We'll walk through this whole UI, so don't feel overwhelmed here. But you'll see that we start with the epics, and again, I'm going to walk you through everything here so you can kind of become a master, a pro by the time we're done here. And when I expand this little arrow, you'll see I have all my stories. So this view and this view in the basic roadmap should look very familiar, and this is a good thing, right? But not worth 2x the price. Hey, Jira guy, thank you so much for joining. It's been a while since you've joined. So we're talking advanced roadmaps today. So I'm not sure if it's something that you guys use in the data center. Is it even called advanced roadmaps in the data center? I thought it used to be called oh, what's the word? Help me out, Jira guy. It's not structure. It had a name. I had a different name. Like I haven't. It was like a long time ago. It was like 5 years ago the last time that I saw it. But anyways, I know that the data center version has the plans, but I don't know if they call it advanced roadmaps. Anyways, so you'll see that we see the epics and we see the stories just like we do in the basic. But here is where we get a little bit more accelerated, right? So we can actually expand the subtasks and see the subtasks. You do not get this functionality over here. And so if your team is using subtasks, you probably realize by now that Jira just doesn't like and doesn't work really, really well with subtasks. They won't show up on the board. They won't show up in the They won't show up in the backlog, so you can't plan them. They only show up in the board. And so subtasks is like, some people have like a love-hate relationship with it. But from a planning perspective, portfolio, yes, that's what it used to be called. Jira Portfolio is what the advanced roadmap. Thank you, Gary. Always saving my butt, Gary. You are such a great pal here. Always helping me out. And Jira guy, not helping me out. I'm just kidding. I don't want to create any fights in the chat. Okay, so anyway, so this is probably going to be one of the key benefits is that we can have the entire hierarchy. You can see all of it and basically understand and have a holistic view of what's going on. So now I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to show you something kind of cool. And so another thing that you can do is in your main project, so I'm in the project over here by itself, right? We can actually add additional issue types. And so we can go to issues and we go to types. And you see that I have the basics. These are just the out of the box, what it comes with, the story, the bug, the epic, the task, and the subtasks. But if your project has it, you can actually come in and add something higher than an epic. So I have an initiative. This is a very common thing to do. I see a lot of teams do this because the epic is just sometimes not enough. It's not high level enough for people to capture the efforts that they want to capture. So they pull in an epic, or they create they pull in initiatives to then capture a ton of epics under, or maybe tons of hyper, a bit of an exaggeration, but they will use initiatives to then kind of roll up epics into it, right? And so in Jira, the view is kind of okay, but in the advanced roadmap, works beautifully, right? So if I save this, if I save my initiative, all I did was I brought in my initiative into my project. You can see that I now have, you can see that I now have initiatives in here. And so now that I have it, I can actually, in my project, go and create an initiative, right? So I can just do like, this is an initiative 1, and hit create. But when I do that, in this view, in Jira, it's kind of hard to link things together, right? And so now I have to go to the epic, and so I'd have to go find an epic, and then once I have my epic, I can then find the parent link field, assuming that I have it here. I don't, so now I gotta go to the screens, right? And now I gotta go into the screens for my epic, and then I have to go find the parent link field. Once I find the parent link field, and I'm trying to say this as quickly as I can so that I'm not boring you all, but once you have your parent link field here, then I can go back into my project, back into my epic. Let's see if I can find my epics again. Right, now I can go into my epic, then I can scroll down, then I'm gonna find the parent link, and now I can link it to that initiative. So remember, this is the initiative that I created, and now the relationship exists such that when I open up an initiative, I'll open this full screen, you'll see that it has a child issue of an epic. The epic will have stories underneath, and then this story will have subtasks. And so now you can see that I've created a 4-tier hierarchy, but you saw all the clicking I had to do. There's a lot of clicking. And when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're planning, precious seconds count, right? And they can really disrupt your flow of thinking. So in the advanced roadmap, when we're doing this, you can actually, now that I've enabled initiatives in this project, I can come up to my view settings, filters here, and instead of going from the epic, I can actually change this to go to the initiative. And so now I'm going to see my initiatives, which for some reason I'm not seeing any, and that's probably because I just created it. I don't know. There it is. So there's my initiative, right? And so now, because I did link them earlier, remember I added that parent link a couple seconds ago, this relationship all exists very beautifully, right? Super, super awesome. Really, really cool that they're all kind of just, it just works, right? It's neat. But you'll notice that now my epics are alienated over here. It says, hey, you have 2 issues without a parent. And the reason this is saying this is because my filter and my hierarchy is pulling in from the initiative. So it's essentially telling me, hey, these epics over here don't have an initiative that they belong to. This can be okay, or if you want to relate them, you have 2 options. You can either go and add the parent link like I did earlier, or y'all sitting down, you ready to have your mind blown? You can just go and grab your epic, grab it about right here, drag it, and then you can just drop it in there. And now, when I open up that, well, let me not do it here. When I open up my my initiative, let me go back all the way up. I can hit refresh. Oops, I can hit refresh, and you'll notice that it's not there. In the chat, anybody know why it's not there? Anybody want to take a guess? Bonus points for whoever takes the right guess. Who in the chat knows why? Even though I did the relationship, right? T2-2 is nested under T2-17, and so when I collapse these, you can see that those epics collapse nicely. But when I refresh my epic over here, or my initiative, it doesn't, the change isn't, it didn't carry over. Anybody know why? Come on, chat. Take a wild guess. Anybody want to take a wild guess as to why it didn't work? There's no wrong answers. I'm just looking for some interaction. Nobody wants to take a wild guess. You guys are letting me down, stream. Oh, here we go. Have to save the plan. Gary, you are on the right plan, right? Or the right train of thought. So when you make changes to the plan, when you're making like all these changes, right? Even if I go and create like another initiative, and I can go, this is my second initiative, right? All of these changes, and let's say that I track this epic, move this epic underneath this one, right? Well, now I nested it too. So right. So once I got this is all kind of happening independent of what's happening in Jira, until you hit this magical blue button. And when you click on this magical blue button that says review changes, this is actually going to give me a summary of everything that I've done. And so you can see that had I went into Jira and made all these changes, right? Changed the rank, change the parent link and whatnot, this would have happened in Jira. But because I did it in the plan's actually saving, and it's just gonna collect every change, right? And so you can have like 100 changes in here, and it won't actually affect Jira, which can be a gift and it could be a curse. It depends on just the dynamic of your team. But it's not until you click on that blue button and then you click this subsequent blue button that then the plan's going to be saved. Then all this data is going to be pushed to Jira. So now when I refresh my initiative, you'll see that I have the two issues. So you want to use this at your advantage, right? If you're kind of like in a brainstorming session with your team and you're trying to like decompose things and you're breaking things out, right? Maybe you're working with your product owner and y'all trying to figure out, so what's in scope? What does this look like? What do these epics look like? What do these stories look like? Do we have any bugs? Stuff like that, right? You can do all this like brainstorming work without actually creating and assigning stuff in Jira yet. It's kind of like a little playground, if you will, which is kind of cool, right? Because then you can also delete them real quickly. You can move things around. You can like change the parent just by dragging and dropping. And it's just like, it's such a fluid interface to just dynamically change your data. Because if you were to do this in Jira, you can absolutely do all this in Jira, but you're going to be clicking on the create. You're going to have to be filling out a lot of stuff. Then you're going to have to, it's just, you're messing with a lot of fields when you're in the Jira UI. But when you're in the Advanced Roadmaps UI, you can see just how swiftly we can make all this happen without a lot of investment and knowledge here. So this is kind of cool. And so now basically this is one of the key features of using the Advanced Roadmaps, right? I can use my initiatives. I can lock them up here and I can go, okay, so here's all my initiatives. Then I can drill down and look at my epics, and then I can drill down, and if my epics have a subtask, or sorry, if my stories have a subtask, then I can see all that as well, right? And so that's just part one, right? I don't even know how much, I don't think we're gonna get through every functionality tonight, but this is just one of the main benefits of having this, where you can very neatly, from like a 30,000 foot view, see everything, right? Now this is just one view and one thing. What I'm going to do is in my plan settings, I'm going to go to configure, I'm going to go to issue sources, and I'm actually just going to add another source. So I'm going to go to my projects, and I'm just going to bring in another Thursday one that I have. Oh, really quickly, this is kind of very important. I've actually had this debate with many of folks, and in the cloud, we have this concept of a team managed project. If you've seen any of my videos, y'all know that I hate team managed projects, and you know that I try to encourage everybody to not use them whenever possible, because you should avoid them like the plague. And another reason why is if you are in this premium version of Jira and you go to basically bring it in, right? So if I go to pick a project, you'll notice that I do have team managed projects, but I'm greeted with a nice little message that says, sorry, team managed projects are not supported. So if you were ever looking for yet another excuse as to why team managed projects are not good news bears, this is yet another thing, another arsenal item that you can add to your arsenal to convince management that team managed projects, no bueno, not a good idea. Anyways, I'm gonna bring in my other Thanksgiving dinner. I teach a class where apparently I'm very, very ready. I'm gonna be very, very prepared for my Thanksgiving this year. So anyways, you can see I have now 3 projects. The number of issues in my plan has gone up from 16 all the way to 19. And so now it's kind of high. You don't have to save anything. You don't have to do anything crazy. You can just hit back to plan. And when we go back here, you're going to notice that we're still kind of seeing just the 2 initiatives that we had earlier, because my view is still at the initiative level. And all these other issues, this turkey and this TJC, are just hanging out with no parent, because again, they don't have initiatives. If you recall, I only added the initiative to this one TS or T2 project, and so that's still in place. So if I switch over to the epic level, then you're gonna basically see all of the epics from all of my projects. This right here is yet where we start getting into more of the power of the advanced roadmaps, because instead of being restricted to just one project like I am in the basic, I can pull in all the sources and see all the initiatives, all the epics, all the stories that all of the different teams are working on. You're not limited here. This is why you want to be in the advanced roadmap. This is why you're paying 2x the price, because now instead of having to hop to 20 different places, you can bring them all into one view and holistically see what's going on, What are the teams working on? What do the dates look like and stuff like that. So let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I think this is a good like kind of a pivot point. We've been talking about just as a recap, how to bring in multiple sources into your advanced roadmap so that you can really leverage the power, right? And then the second thing or the first thing that we talked about, which was how to leverage the multiple hierarchies, right? So now you see that instead of having just an epic and a story, we now have an initiative, an epic, a story, and a subtask. So it's a 4-tier hierarchy, which really gives you the full breadth and view of everything that's going on in your teams and in your projects. And this view right here is priceless, it's powerful. You get to see everything. So in the chat, if you have any questions, again, let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna keep on going, and I'm gonna basically walk you through the interface a little bit because we kind of just jumped in once we created the plan. We kind of jumped into the deep end here. So I'm gonna kind of back it up a little bit, talk a little bit about the UI, and then kind of give you some more examples of how this is used in the wild. Okay, so up here is your plan name, so you can actually change this. So if you don't like the live stream plan, you can change it to whatever you want. You can click the little check mark or you can click the little X. Now, as a disclaimer, this little check mark and this X, very, very powerful. If you come into Jira, into this roadmap, right, and I click on this create a story, right, and I'm just like, this is some cool story. And if I click away, if you're the type of person that just clicks away in Jira, you'll notice it went away. You want to be very careful, pay very close attention to that little check mark, because unless you click enter or physically click that little check mark, your items are not going to get saved. And remember, they're not going to get saved to the project because they still don't even get pushed to Jira until you hit that review changes button, right? But again, if you're struggling with it, it's just muscle memory, because in native Jira, inside of over here, most of the time when we go and add something, right, I can click on it, click away anywhere I want, and it will register and save. But in the advanced roadmap, you want to be very careful. It's a big gotcha, because if you do that same behavior, she ain't gonna remember and you're gonna be very, very mad. So keep that as a tip, valuable tip from from me. All right, so that's where you change the name, and again, it just came because the check mark and the X, right? This little gear or this little ellipsis here, very, very powerful. We're gonna spend a couple minutes here. The main thing that you want to look at is the configure. The tour is just Atlassian's guided system where it's gonna do that purple boxes everywhere where they kind of show you what's what and where's everything. And then you got that get help, which is Atlassian's official documentation, and then the delete. Now, my rule of thumb is don't ever delete stuff unless you absolutely must delete something. So this is the delete. Be very careful. Only the admins can delete it. I'm an admin. I'll show you how to get to the admin stuff in a second. But only the admins will be able to delete the project plan. And so you just want to be very careful whenever deleting, because any deletion in Jira, especially in the cloud, it's gone forever. And it's going to be gone forever and ever. Hey, Victor, thank you so much. V7 in the building representing. It's been so long. We're on V12 now. So it's just, oh, man. You're bringing back memories, Victor. Thank you for joining. Thank you for chatting. And everybody in the chat, thank you so much for the thumbs up. Thanks for the comments. Feel free to say hello if you haven't already. Get to know people. We have a couple of Jira experts in the room here. Gary is a pretty good, he's been starting to follow quite a bit. And the Jira guy is a long time follower, almost a year now, I guess. And so if you have any questions, again, we got a couple of Jira experts in the room. So feel free to say hi, start networking, and let's definitely jump into the community here. All right, so we're going to be focusing on the configure. So I'm going to walk you through some of the different configurations that you can do. All right, the big one, the biggest configuration that folks do is if you're not practicing Scrum, if you're not Agile, and you're not doing story points, then you want to update your settings. Because I should back that up. If you're doing Scrum and you're doing Agile and you are using story points, the plan doesn't default to story points. It defaults to days. And so you want to come in here and change it so that your values come in from the story points. This is really, really key if you are using story points, because the plan's just going to look wrong. And I'll show you where it would look wrong again in a second or two. But this is one of the main configurations that I'm always coming in to change, because most teams, I would say 90% of my teams, are usually practicing Scrum, and thus they're using story points. But then they're like, well, the story points don't add up. So this is where you're going to want to come and make that change so that your story points reflect accordingly in the plan. So that's one of the key changes you're going to want to come in here and make. Next are your dates. Now, dates in Jira, they are mind-boggling. They're like an enigma to me. And so out of the box, you get the start date, which is a default date, except it's a custom field because it has the ID. Because you'll see that due date is a true it's a true native field in Jira. It doesn't have an ID. But anyways, you want to make sure that you're using the right fields here. So when you start talking about dates, we haven't gone into it yet, but this is kind of like the first place you want to pay attention. When you start figuring out, okay, so what are my dates? So many teams have different dates, like the different lines in the sand for, like, there's like ship date and like go live date and like code complete date and like build complete date, right? So you can have like a plethora of different dates. Unfortunately, the plans will only give you 2 dates. You can come in and configure these, and you may need to create different plans, which is different things that you're trying to track, right? But you only get, unfortunately, 2 dates, and you can basically come in here and pick what is your start and what is your end. And so you can come in here and like change them, right? By default, you're gonna get the start date and the due date, but if that's not your cup of tea, then you're going to want to change these. Other spoiler or disclaimer: the start date and the due date are not part of the default fields that you see in your Jira project. So you may, if you are going to be using the advanced roadmap and you are going to be basically, let me go back to my plan, and you're actually going to be using the dates, right? So if you're going to be defining dates, look how my start and my end date got populated automatically. These fields may not be in your story. So you want to make sure that you talk to your Jira admin, because if you go to your story, you want to make sure that start date and your due date, I don't know, see, my due date's not in here, right? They're not supposed to be in there. It's not a default thing that comes in with Jira. So if you are going to be leveraging these start and due dates, which you should, because it's one of the reasons why we even use the advanced roadmaps, then you also just want to make sure that those dates are also available. And so just as a quick 101, right? You're gonna go into your project settings, you're gonna go to your issues, you're gonna go to your screens, you're gonna go to your actual screen here, and then you will add the due date. For cloud, is there anywhere that current native fields are listed in Jira? I don't think so. I haven't seen anything specific, but the best way to kind of understand what's the default is when you create a brand new project, a brand new company managed project. If you come to the screen for that project, right? I've obviously altered so many of my screens in this project, but if you come into your just the default screen that was created for that project, you will see what's the default, right? So you got things like the epic name, the summary, the issue type, your components, security level, attachment, description, reporter, linked issues, fixed versions, assignee, priority, labels, and epic link, and sprint. Now, the other trick, and this one's kind of a hit or miss, but if you come to custom fields and you try looking it up, now this doesn't always work, but if you come into custom fields, right, and you look up like start, like due date, right, if I look it up, it won't show up because it's not a custom field. So if you're looking up a field like, I think description might be another one, it won't actually show up. So if they're not showing up, there's a very high probability that is indeed a default field or native field, if you will, right? But there are some caveats, right? So you can do like start date, which is what we looked at right now, and you'll see that start date isn't a default or native field. It is a custom field, but it's locked. And that's also basically another indicator that this is basically a native field. So those are my 2 cents there with respect to your question, Gary. So hopefully that answered it for you. But anyways, you want to make sure you add your due date. So now when I go to my issue, my story that I was looking at earlier, this will now have a due date in it, which it is here. And now we can, once we go push the value in Jira, it'll actually reflect over here. So anyways, that was that. So any questions again on that, please let me know. I am monitoring the chat, as you can see. So you can do that. Inferring dates, This I'm not too. I used it a couple times. It's not something that I use too much, so it's not really something that I understand 100%. But with the inferred dates, it basically goes and grabs dates from either your sprint or your release. Because remember, you can put a start and end date on the release or on the sprint, and it will bring them in to kind of help you. Like if you don't have any dates on your issues, it will then like infer it, right? And you see that in the roadmap. You see that over here, where this orange, purple, and green is not anything that I define. It's the definition of the sprint. It's the dates that are bound by the sprint. So a similar behavior is going to happen with this. And then your dependencies are this. You have basically two options on how you want to show dependencies. I will show you dependencies. Dependencies are awesome, totally cool. One again, I keep saying one of the many, but this is yet one of the very many reasons why the advanced roadmaps is such a popular feature in Jira, because of this dependency management view. Okay, so you can do sequential, where it just basically shows you one after the other. This is mainly for auto scheduling. I have never done auto scheduling. I've never been able to figure out auto scheduling. So if anybody actually knows how to do auto scheduling, get a hold of me. I'd like to learn. But yeah, auto scheduling is something that is a mystery that I'm gonna crack one day, and hopefully I'll figure it out. But you can pick between sequential, which is in the right order, or concurrent, which is parallel. Again, this is mainly for the auto scheduling there. So that's pretty much it here. We do have a lot more to cover, but we'll probably have to cover that in a future training. So there's a whole lot more going on. I recommend you again go and kind of take a look. I am going to continue back on the plan. I'll come back here as appropriate, when appropriate, to kind of show you a couple of other things. But for now, we're just going to go back to the board and answer this question. Can we enable story points to a Kanban board? So you can enable story points to the issue itself, right? So the story can have it, but you're not going to get it on the board itself, right? The Kanban board will not give you the little bubble that you need. You will need to create a new board and make it of a type Scrum. It's not a deal breaker though, because realistically the boards are very interchangeable. So all you need to do is create the new one and then just bring in the same query. And as long as you bring in the same query, everything's going to be preserved, minus the fact that you don't have sprints, right? So you won't have a sprint to preserve, but all the issues that were in your Kanban will come over, and whatever status they were in your other Kanban, they will come over. So it's unfortunately there's just no way around that, because the Kanban is not designed to be the Scrum board, right? That's why you pick the Scrum. So hopefully that answers your question, K. Ravi. All right. So back to the plan here. So showed you the hierarchies. We're gonna kind of move our way across here, and I want to show you the fields. So these are the default stuff, like you got the start date, the due date, and the status. But you can actually add other fields. So one of the cool fields that I like to do is in progress, right? Or progress. So I can bring in this progress bar, and it'll show me how my issues are doing based on the points. So I can hover over it, and I can see, look, there's 45 total points for this whole epic. 27 are completed, 18 are completed, which accounts for 40%, and then 27 are incomplete, which accounts for 60% of the work, right? So you can get this really cool holistic view, because how many of you have been in a meeting and your bosses are like, where are we at? How far along are we? And you're like, I don't know. Well, guess what? Now you can come and look at this here. And so this is based on story points, right? And so this is, again, if you hover over these, it'll kind of show you based on the story points that are underneath it. And when I hide it, you'll just see the epics and so on, right? But you can also add, there's another progress, and that one's by issue count. And so this one's just going to do the statuses, right? So this one's going to based on like what status something is in. So if something's in progress and to do or done, it's going to give you black for to do, blue for in progress, and green for done. And this is another great way of like, okay, so what's actually done? And so you can see not using story points. So if you're like with Ravi, right, if you're in a Kanban style, you're obviously not going to have story points. So you'll be able to use the progress from an issue count perspective to be able to see that. So I really like these. Managers, when I show it to them, like they're just drooling all over the place, because this is just exciting, right? It is hard. In Jira, out of the box, it is hard to visualize. If I'm looking at this, it's hard for me to know how far along am I, right? Even in this roadmap view, like this one kind of tells me now. I think this is a newer feature here, but it's not perfect. It doesn't tell me the same like the other one, right? There's no the other one's just like every layer shows me the progress, right? So I can expand these epics and it will show me the stories and everything, right? So it's kind of cool. I really like this. Executives really eat this stuff up too. And so if you want it, at the very least, this progress bar is like one of the favorite features from any executive. Additionally, you can bring in like other fields like your assignee. You can bring in the sprint field, right? So all these other different default fields that you have, you can bring them in and essentially show this metadata, right? So if you want to do the priority, right? If you're like all the different fields that you use to make strategic decisions, you can just pull them in here and in one view have them all here. And so this is yet another powerful feature because when we're looking at the basic roadmap, we just see the title and the issue type here, but there's nothing strategic that I can do with this. There's not a lot that I can do. But over here, and now I can sort by my highest priority. Oops. Now I can sort by my highest priority, or I can sort by the sprint, or I can sort by the assignees, right? There's just different things that I can now start sorting on and start really tackling the real problems that I have in my organization and hopefully give my team some traction so that they can go forth and like be unblocked and actually go do productive things. Which again, unless you're not in this view, it's hard to get that metadata. Sure, you can build like a dashboard, but it's just so much extra work. And so this is kind of where you're really, you get to play this game of like, okay, so we can technically build dashboards and like use like custom charts and just other dashboard and widgets and gadgets and stuff to kind of show this data, or we double our price and everybody in the organization can like create these like very very powerful views, right? And so again, these are just like some of those trade-off analysis that you have to do, but just from a scrum master perspective, like I can't I literally spend almost all my time as a scrum master in this view because I can see everything. I know exactly what everybody's working on, the status of everything, how things are progressing, and be able to see it all very easily. Because guess what? If I have a status of blocked, I'm gonna be able to see my blockers. But on the note of blockers, let me come over here. We're gonna compress some of these because I don't want to see them, and so you can just click on them, right? And so now we're gonna go into the dates, and so the dates is kind of cool. You can do simple stuff like this where you just like dragging and dropping, and you can set the dates for the duration, or you can come in here and put the actual dates, right? And so it's really up to you and how you want to do it. But Jira's gonna give you like if you put in the date over here, it's going to give you the representation on the map, or you can come in here and drag it or do whatever you want to do. Okay, that's that part. Additionally, if you're in the actual issue itself, right? So if I go into like my T27 for my apple pie, and if I change my date here, right? So if I change the date on the ticket itself, and then I go change the due date for like September 9th, right? Then if I go hunt T2-7, I'm gonna have to refresh my screen though. But if I go hunting for T2-7, so give me a second while I figure out where I put it at. I think it's here. See, it automatically has those dates that I provided. So what's really cool, and you might have missed this, right? When you're in the advanced roadmap, any changes that we make, so you all saw that I just added a bunch of dates to all these stories. If I open it, the dates are not there. Besides the fact that the fields aren't there. But trust me, the dates are not there, right? Until I hit the blue button on the top right corner. But if I'm in Jira and then I add stuff, it will automatically be reflected. And this is really, really good news for you. Because what this means is you don't have to add overhead to your teams. You don't have to go and tell them, hey team, I need you to go and do this, that, and the other, right? Because the teams are naturally and inherently, they're going to be moving an issue into a sprint. So your sprint's going to be populated. They're naturally going to be assigning tickets to their team members. So your assignee is going to be filled out, right? The status as it moves across the workflow is going to be updated. And so you're going to be able to bring in all of that data automatically for free. Because you as this owner of this plan don't have to go hunting for the data. The data just comes to you just naturally by the team using Jira. So very little to no overhead. This is really, really good stuff, right? Because again, it takes a lot of that micromanagement out of the equation, and the team is given the autonomy and the freedom to just go and use Jira. And by them using Jira, you're going to get some amazing just metrics and metadata that you can then use to make very strategic decisions. And so I've used this advanced roadmap to run a $1.5 million a month program. And so every decision was very, very important. And just being able to see everything holistically through this roadmap, worth every single penny. I'm telling you, if you're not on this premium version, get the free 30-day upgrade and try it out, show it to your boss, and start driving results, and you'll see how quickly things turn around. Okay, so on the spirit of these dates, you'll notice that I have all these bars, right? So these basically represent the dates themselves, right? And they're different colors. I'll show you what the different colors mean in a second. Spoiler, it has to do with the status, right? The in progress ones are blue, the to-dos are like a darkish gray. But now this is where you can do dependencies, right? So you can actually hover over any of these, and there's like a little plus sign, and so I can go, well, these two are dependent on each other, and like this one's dependent on this one. And so this starts creating relationships. These start creating a blocks and block by relationship in your Jira. But it's so much easier to visualize this than if I were to go in here, open this T2-7, add the link button, click a link issue, and say, well, this one's blocked by, I don't know, T2-9, right? I can come in here and say, well, these are linked, but now all I can see is a little paperclip, which is cool. I can hover over it and then see dependency details, but again, it doesn't give me the same visual. But over here, I have this amazing visual, so I can see the red lines. I can kind of click on it and see that same like information. But what's even more mind-boggling to me is I haven't talked about this basic view up here. I want to talk about it now. When I click on this and I come to dependencies report, it will actually show me those relationships of every blocker that I've created. And so now in just one place, I can all of a sudden start seeing, okay, so this is bad news, right? These issues are blocked, and this is the negative impact that it's going to have. This is awesome. I love it. Unfortunately, it doesn't behave like Microsoft Projects. So if you're used to that relationship or that functionality in Microsoft Projects for when you, because I know somebody's going to ask me, right? Because everybody always asks me, is, okay, so I blocked them and I made the relationship and my dates got pushed to the right or they got pushed to the left. Will they auto push in Jira? The answer is no. Jira isn't Microsoft Project, right? And so the best I can do, the best I can give you is this visibility, this view of here is the relationships of these two issues, and here's how many days are going to be blocked. Okay, and that's all I can do. I can't actually move the dates for you. Jira's not that smart, and maybe in the future, maybe we can open up like a request with Atlassian, but just for now, this is probably the most insightful thing that you can see when you do have items blocked. All right, so we got a question from Gary. Are blocks the only link type supported within Advanced Roadmaps? Is there a way to set relates or any other link types? So that's a great question. I think you can do, let me check. I think blocks might be the only one, but we can always test things out. We can always look. I'm just trying to see if there's anything in the settings over here. So why don't we come into my T9, my T2-7. Let's see what T2-7 has. Okay, so I can find my T2-7. Let me hit refresh over here. And so my T2-7 has the thing blocking T2-9. I'm going to tell it to show the dependencies. Oh, nope, I don't want to do that. Anyways, let's change the relationship type, right? So instead of block by, we're going to throw this one away. And we're going to add another link. And we'll do the same T2-9, so T2-9. But instead of blocks, we're going to do a relates to, right? And so I'll click that link. And so now I'm going to come over here, refresh my plan, and see if that thing's impacted. So as you can see, that link goes away. So Gary, to answer your question, only blocks appears to be, well, only still a very strong statement, but only blocks seems to do it. So it seems reasonable that it would be the only link type, since just curious if it was. No. Yeah, and it makes the most sense, right? Because the blocks is when you think of blocks, you're automatically thinking of a dependency or an impediment, right? And guess what? Also, if you're a scrum master, right, and you're doing your daily scrums and you run into that, hey, what are the impediments for today? Well, guess what? This is where you're gonna want to make sure. Whoa, this got a little bright. Getting a little dark in my office, so let's see if I can get the right light here. So, anyways, yeah, the dependencies, your impediments are gonna be your blocked issues. I typically use a status of blocked, and I have a column for blocked, because the other thing that kind of, I want to use the word sucks, but the other thing that kind of sucks in Jira is that unless you have like script runner, you can't find the relationships that are blocked or blocked by. Like you can't do a query where it's like, hey Jira, show me everything that's blocked by whatever. Like you can kind of do something similar if you know exactly what's blocked, but you can't go and like give me every query or give me every issue that is currently blocked that has a block by relationship. Like that's not possible unless you're like in script runner. But if I use the status of blocked, then I can go and like give me every issue that has a status of blocked. Or if I'm in this advanced roadmap view, then I can kind of start tracing these red arrows or red lines and have that insight there. So again, there's so many different ways to skin the cat here in the wonderful world of Atlassian, but those are just one of the things that I wanted to show you to kind of help you out. So anyways, we are getting here at the top of the hour, so I'm going to start wrapping things up here. There's obviously so much more to this thing that it's really important for you to kind of explore it. But at the very least, I definitely think if you're already on Premium, right? If you already have Jira Premium and you have that plans at the top, you gotta try doing an advanced roadmap. It will change your life, right? Just with the basics that I showed you here in this hour, there should be plenty for you to be very, very destructive for your organization, right? There's so much more. There's so much more customization. We can these live streams aren't going away, so we just let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chats, right? This is powerful feedback to give back to me. But if you are interested in this kind of stuff, right? Like obviously you're the voice of the customer here, so let me know, and I'd love to do more. But there's just like we're literally just scratching the surface here, right? I got teams here that I coach that just go way, way above and beyond this stuff, right? And so one of the couple things I just want to show you a couple cool things here before we leave, um, just so that you can kind of see, but we won't go into any specific details because again we're running out of time for this live stream. So one of the things that you saw in configure is this thing called scenarios. And so what you can do with scenarios, this is actually kind of cool, right? So we can leave the initial scenario to be like red, and then I can add another scenario to be like vacations or something, right? And it'll just be a copy, and I can hit create. Now when I go to my plan, you'll notice that I have this new item here. So this can be my scenario for just the main scenario, right? Like the perfect, this is what the teams have done. But then I can change to vacations, and all of a sudden, I can now change things and see how things are going to be impacted, right? So what happens if I push these things out to the dates, right? What happens if I manage my dependencies, right? What happens if I add more resources or move things around or delete stuff or add stuff, right? Then you can do all that without actually impacting anything, right? Because then I can toggle back to my initial one, and everything's exactly the way it was. So nothing got changed, but I can still kind of just play around with stuff. I can have very strategic, just pie in the sky, what if type of conversations with like my product owners or with the software managers or whoever's an executive or a decision maker in your company. And you can have these like conversations and just explore stuff, right? And kind of just make those kind of calls. So I really like scenarios for that thing. And so if you find yourself into positions where again you don't necessarily always want to update Jira, right? There's events, there's situations where you just want to explore a little bit. You just like, well, what if we change this date, or what if we do this, or what if we do that, right? But you don't necessarily want to update Jira, and you sure as heck don't want to bombard everybody with like 1,000 notifications, right? Because you can think of all the stuff that I've been changing in Jira. The watchers would be like, Alex just added an assignee. Alex just changed the start date. Alex just changed the start date again. Alex just changed the start date yet again. Alex just changed, right? You'd be bombarding folks, and so in this view, you can do all your exploratory discovery work, and then when you're done, and only when you're done do you push the review changes. You can review every change that you made, and then you can just hit push, or you can deselect. I didn't do it, but you can table them off, right? You can deselect them so they don't get changed. And now Jira's updated. Now everybody's got the latest, and now you can get down to business. So, anyways, again, that's like the very, very basics. That should be enough to just give you that insight to be very productive. In the chat, though, there's a couple people left here. Give me a thumbs up if you're using the roadmaps today, or is it something you want to use? Let me know. I'd like to see if you got any value today. Was this helpful? Did you know about the roadmaps, the advanced roadmaps, right? Like, have you used them before? Just let me know. Don't drop off before letting me know in the chat here, because again, this is just some valuable feedback. I'd love to hear from you all and help me understand. Like, Gary says, thanks, Alex. The videos and live streams are great. The interactiveness is also super helpful. Yeah, it's just hard. Gary, you're the only person interacting, so appreciate you, Gary. You have no idea how thankful I am for every comment that you write. But everybody else, don't be shy. I won't bite. It's kind of hard. It's the internet. The internet prevents us from me being able to bite you. So I always remember that from grade school. My teachers were like, "You can sit in the front. I won't bite. I promise." But I never believed my teachers. But yeah, I won't bite, and yeah, feel free. I'd love to get feedback from you all. Gary, have you? I'm assuming you have been using the advanced roadmaps before. It's something I've been using ever since like I first got my hands on it about a year and a half ago, and so I use it almost daily for all the stuff that I manage. K Robbie's got me a thumbs up, so I'm gonna assume that you do use them. Powerful stuff. I encourage you, if you're watching this video, maybe you're watching the replay, explore it. It is worth it. I guarantee you. I am also dropping a video on Thursday, so in 2 days, where I'm also gonna talk about a couple of other premium features that you get. So make sure you stick around for that Thursday video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. But on Thursday, the advanced roadmap is just one of like a couple of other features in the premium subscription that you do get. And so I know it's double the price, right? It's way more expensive than the standard. But if you can save, like me having the advanced roadmaps meant that I could save days in schedule, right? And if you fundamentally like trickle down like what does a day cost for you and your company, right? If you're talking like every day is like $100,000 worth of investment, or every day is even worth $10,000, right? Right? Just if you calculate all the people hours of everybody that works for your company, and if being able to have that insight and catch just one day of like saving a schedule, right? That can be a $10,000 savings, which would equal the price of your premium, right? So again, some teams just don't always like to spend the money, but in this case, I think it's worth it. All right, so the last comment here is Gary says, yes, only started a few months back, so still learning the intricacies. Yeah, it takes a while. Hopefully this helped you out, Gary. Hopefully this gives you enough to kind of get going. I do plan in the long term to kind of offer like just more interactive courses with just deep dive into this kind of like advanced roadmap, because I think I can honestly take maybe 6 to 8 hours to just show you how to do advanced roadmaps. There's just like a lot of stuff that you can do in here. Anyways, to everybody else, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Drop a like on your way out. Drop a hello on your way out. Again, these comments greatly help out the algorithm. And then because you guys are like part of my family here, you're part of the community here, I do want to give everybody an update on where we are at. I like to close these out with like where are we at on our path to monetization. And so because of every single one of you that come in here, we're at 12:58, so it's really, really good. If you all recall, just on August 2nd, we had our 1K anniversary. So in like a little under 30 days, I've been able to knock out another extra almost 260 subs. So this stuff does grow. So again, appreciate to everybody that has ever shared, that has ever subscribed. You have no idea how much this means. Like my family and I, we wake up every morning and we're checking all these numbers. I got my 5-year-old and my 10-year-old. They're always like, Dad, what are the subscriber numbers this morning and stuff. And so they're always just like, so everybody that subscribed, thank you so much. I have no idea how much, not only me, but my whole family appreciates it. And then from the monetization perspective, we're at 34.93, so about 500 more hours to go. So if you're watching the videos, I got the playlists. I got the playlist here for Jira trainings. These are 11 videos that are an hour long each. So it's about 11 hours a day. So if you want to just let those rip, watch those over and over and over. That is probably the best way you can help support the channel right now, is just watching these super long videos. so that runtime just goes right, and just help me get to those last 500 hours. I had a goal of monetizing by Labor Day. That's here in the U.S. It's next Monday, so I don't think I'm gonna hit it. I'm predicting that I'm gonna be at about 3,700 hours by Labor Day, but if you want to tell everybody where you work to just go watch all the videos, that would be so much appreciated, right? And so yeah. Anyways, we're gonna wrap this one up. John Paul, thank you so much for coming. Alice, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate everybody. Gary, thanks for all the comments. Jira Guy, thank you for the comments. And K Robbie, thank you for the questions. Mara wasn't on the call. Mara stomped me last week, so a little sad that I got stomped and couldn't answer that question. I still owe her an answer, so hopefully I will get her an answer. But everybody else, thank you so much. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Appreciate you. I will not be here next week. Next week I will be traveling, and so it's going to be hard for me. I will try. I'll let you all know. I mean, I typically post these like 15 minutes before, but if I get back to my computer on time, I will try to have a live stream next week. Otherwise, it's probably the last live stream of the summer, and we are going to continue, though September we'll have live streams, but we're going to be shifting the strategy a little bit. We're going to start pulling in Confluence. We're going to start pulling in Bitbucket. We're going to talk a little bit of extracurricular activities that goes beyond Jira. So don't fret, this live streams aren't going anywhere, but next week, just because of the Labor Day, schedule might be messed up a little bit. But anyways, thank you again so much for all your support. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like if you haven't already. And if you're watching the replay, let me know if you have any comments or questions. We had some good questions here in the chat today. So appreciate you all, and see you potentially maybe next week, or for sure in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns who were all taught they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.